Hi, so as a new EV owner, and I've owned my EV now for 6 months, and we're now in December 2023. I had never prior to this owned an electric car before. I've always had an ICE car, internal combustion engine, as we like to call them. So what are my thoughts and experiences after 6 months of a new EV owner? Well, let me tell you about my car. I've got a Nissan Leaf. It's a 2019 40 kilowatt car, and that's the only electric car I've ever owned. So let's talk about a couple of factors that I'm sure if you're watching this video and you're going to be thinking about getting an EV, you will want to know the answers to, and I will give you an honest opinion of my experience. So the first couple of factors I want to talk to you about, or the first one indeed, is cost. So cost of my car was about 14 grand for a 2019 car, 30,000 miles. Now that, cost-wise, it's more expensive than buying an ICE car. There's no getting away from it. Electric cars are generally more expensive. Other costs to consider is my insurance was higher with an electric car than it was with an ICE car. That again is a no-brainer. Your insurance will be higher, and when I renewed this year, my insurance was £100 more than it is usually. Now I know prices are going up, but my EV experience is that your insurance will be higher. You don't pay road tax, so you save your road tax, or certainly at the moment you don't pay road tax. That may change when the government sits and realises there's a lot of money they can make from electric car owners, but at the moment no car tax, which is a Billy bonus. My other talking about money would be fuel. When I had an ICE car, I used to put 50 quid a month in it, and that got me around about 350 miles. Now that was a little mild hybrid Suzuki Swift, and I got 350 miles for about 50 quid. Now I can do about 100 miles for between £5 and £7. Now I say between £5 and £7 because the other cost factor with these cars is they're more expensive to run in the winter because you get less miles to your kilowatt hour. And we'll come back to range, but I think from a cost perspective, I could do in the summertime about 100 miles for 5 quid based on a just under 30 kilowatt per 30 pence per kilowatt hour electricity cost. And now in the winter with my heating on and with the lights on, I'm probably doing 100 miles for about 7 quid. That is still half of what it used to cost me with petrol. So if you do an awful lot of miles, it's going to be so much cheaper with electric. It really is. Servicing costs for the cars as well. I've not had this service yet, but I've had a quote, and the quote was about 250 quid for a service, and the guys at the garage have said that it's cheaper to service an electric car than an ICE car because obviously there's no engine. You don't have to change all the moving parts of an engine. It's still got moving parts, but it's cheaper than an ICE car. That is what I've been told, and that seems to be the general message running across the internet as well. So from a cost perspective, you will save a fortune on fuel if you charge at home, of course. Now, I've got a home charger, and that's another thing we'll talk about from a cost perspective. Ideally, you need a home charger. Now, these cars come with plugs that you can literally plug into the mains, and that works absolutely fine. It just takes forever to charge. If I wanted to charge this 40 kilowatt car from 0 right the way up to 100%, you're looking about 24 hours. I've got to leave the thing plugged in. If with my home charger that throws out around about 7 kilowatt hours, I can charge the whole thing from 0 to 100 in around about 5 or 6 hours. It's on average, so it's all right. It's not too bad at all. So if you've got a home charger, you can charge better. The cost of the home chargers, you don't get any discount now. The government don't help you with them. You have to buy that yourself. And for me, with E.ON, who I used, it cost me about £1,000, £1,100, and I had the lead as well. So 1,100 quid it cost me. So do you really need that charger at home? Well, if you're just going to do a couple of miles a week in the thing, no, you can just plug it in. As long as you've got somewhere safe to plug it. You don't want all your leads hanging out your window and stuff like that. You need an external plug, or you need to be in a garage ideally. But the external charger just plonked on the side of my house. I get home, when I want to charge it, plug it in. Now, if you've got one of these tariffs with your electricity company who will give you overnight benefits of, my friend's got one, he only pays 7 to 9p, I think it is, per night between midnight and 4 a.m. And if you charge your car every night, it costs you pennies. So that's another great saving you can make. But if you do just plug it in and charge it, to charge the car from around about 30% to 90% cost me about £7. It's peanuts. It's not a lot of money, really. So compared to the cost of putting petrol in the thing, which is always going higher and higher and higher, I'm saving a fortune now. I know electricity charges fluctuating. I don't know where it is at the moment. It's about 29.3 pence per kilowatt. No, is that right? 0.29 pence. But no, 29 pence, yes, per kilowatt hour. We'll get there, folks. It's not too bad. But if it goes up dramatically, then you have to weigh that up. But it's never going to reach the cost of petrol, ever. The cost for charging increases dramatically, however, if you charge outside of your home. If I go to my local Tesco's and I plug it into the fast charger, that cost me about 53 pence a kilowatt hour, which is about equivalent to petrol costs. But, but how often do you need to fast charge it? Which brings me really to my next point, which is range. One of the big things that I worried about when I first got this car, and I think most people worry about, and the biggest thing we worry about, is the range that you're going to get out of your car. Well, mine is a 40 kilowatt car, as I've said, and in the summertime I regularly got between 160 and 170 mile range. Regularly, easily, no problems. If I'd have put the aircon on throughout the whole time, it would have dropped, but I didn't need the aircon on. I just opened the window a little bit and that was sorted. Winter time now, I'm noticing, because the lights are on more, the heating is on, I've got my heated seats on, I'm probably getting about 120 to 140 miles range. And again, that will depend on how often your heating's on, do you travel with all your lights on, etc. But if you aimed at between 120 and 140 mile sort of range in the winter and 160, 170 mile range in the summer on a 40 kilowatt car. And again, my car is 4 years old, so perhaps the batteries took a little bit of a battering, but certainly nothing to worry about. That range that I'm getting in the summer and the winter is okay. As long as you're happy with those ranges, then you've got no worries, really. I know people also worry about what happens if I need charge when I'm out. Well, on a couple of occasions I've charged away from home, and I personally, and I know you hear horror stories, I've had zero problems. I went from home to East Midlands Airport, which for me was about a 65 mile trip, and I thought, I'm just going to try when I get to East Midlands to find a charger. I found one straight away at Donington Park. I drove into Donington Park. There's a fast CHAdeMO charger, which is the one that I need. Plugged it in, went in and had a cup of coffee, came out 25 minutes later, and I'm back up to 80%. It was fantastic. My local Tesco, and I think all the local sort of supermarkety kind of things, will have the fast chargers that you need them. Now, whether they're always working or always available, that's something that, is stick your finger in the air with that one. You might not find one that's available straight away. But I've got a little app, I think it's called Zap Map, that just tells me where the nearest one is. I'll go and have, and I've had no problems. I've had no problems at all. You might get an experience where you go somewhere and you have to wait to charge it up, or you get there and it's broken. Always make sure, if you're going on a long journey, that you give yourself a couple of options and never go to the extreme limit of your car to charge, because obviously if you get there and you need to charge and there's no charger there, then you're in a little bit of a pickle. So just plan your journeys, and it's not too hard to plan your journeys. The Zap Map that I've got will plan a journey for you if you tell it to. No problem at all, really. I went to the National Exhibition Centre in Birmingham as well the weekend, and I was really pleased to see there are shed loads of chargers there. Now, if they're doing that at places like the NEC, they're going to be doing it all over the place. So if you've got to travel a long distance to get to the NEC, you can book a car parking space with a charger, and that's your worries past. That's your worries gone. So from a charging perspective, from an anxiety of the range we're going to get perspective, I don't tend to get that. I really don't. Now, if you're going to take your car on huge journeys, then you're going to have to plan them. There's always going to be some risks. You're going to get to your charging station and it's not working. But I think that the country generally seems to be moving in the right direction for car charging, and there seems to be more and more car charging opportunities popping up as time goes on. So I certainly don't think it is a bad time to be thinking about getting an electric car regarding the charging situation and the range situation. If you can charge from home and you can get to work and back on one charge, you are laughing. You really are. You will save an absolute fortune in fuel. I mean, you know, like I said, the range of this car is about 170 miles in the summer. So if your work trip to work and back every day is 150 miles, and that's extreme for a lot of people, isn't it? Just think of the petrol money you're going to be saving. You're going to be halving your fuel costs. That is an amazing cost. You're also helping the environment, which is a marvellous thing. And there's a big debate, I know, about the manufacture of batteries and everything, but I feel personally a little bit happier knowing that I'm not throwing a load of pollutants into the atmosphere when I'm driving. I guess that's just another little bonus for me, really. The question I get asked as well is, are you glad you got an electric car? Would you get another one? Is it a good experience or a bad experience? I think for me, I have had a wonderful experience with my electric car. It's quiet, it's quick, it's not that I'm endorsing speed, but you know, it's certainly, some people say, is it slow, is it sluggish? No, it's not. It's probably the fastest car I've ever owned, and I drive it like an old man, I've got to be honest. And that's something else to consider, really. If you put your foot down, if you've got a heavy right foot and you like speed and you like to put your foot down and burn off everyone at the lights, you're going to burn through your battery a lot quicker. If you're careful, if you're slower than, you know, if you just do normal road speeds and you don't accelerate like a madman, then you're going to stretch the life of your battery out even further in your range, which I think is important. The other thing I like about it is when I come down a hill or when I slow down, I'm putting some power back into my battery. And I don't know, for me that's like incredible. It's like magic, it's like witchcraft. So I've got on the Nissan Leaf, you've got this system called e-pedal, which is where you don't need your brake. You literally just drive with one foot, accelerate, you put your foot down to brake, you take your foot off, and when you take your foot off, you put power back into the car. It uses the kinetic momentum of the car to plough energy back into your battery. So in theory, you could drive down a hill forever without really charging it and have full charge. It's incredible. It's witchcraft. But I am probably a bit sad. I love watching the energy going back into my battery. And in the app that comes with the Nissan Leaf, and I'm probably sure it does with all the cars, it tells me how much energy I've regenerated, and I like to see that monthly as well. It's just a sad thing. But, you know, when you're driving down a hill in a petrol car, your engine's still running and you're still burning off petrol. When you're braking in a petrol car, you're still using petrol. When you brake or you go downhill in an electric car, you are putting energy back into your battery. It is free energy. It costs you nothing. That in itself is pretty incredible, really, isn't it? So my overall thoughts on an electric car after owning one for 6 months. Let me stop waffling and get to that point. I've saved money. I've got decent miles out of it considering where I go. The car is sleek, it's modern, it's quiet, it's slick. It's just fantastic. I will not go back to an ICE car. Now, you know, again, I'm semi-retired. I work from home. I don't need to do hundreds of miles every day, and it has served me absolutely fine. Your own individual situation may determine whether an electric car is right for you, given the amount of miles that you do in one journey regularly. If you drive regularly under the range of your car, you've got no worries. And if you get something like one of these Uber Tesla things, fantastic, all singing, all dancing, you know, the range of those can be up to 350, 400 miles. So again, that will depend on what your budget is to buy your car, what range, what kilowatt hour and all that for your car. But if you can get one that does a huge mileage, then it's just like having petrol. It really is. And with the super uber fast chargers nowadays, you can charge them at super speeds. They're absolutely fantastic. So would I get another electric car? Yes, absolutely I would. Am I happy that I got this one? Yeah. Was I worried to death before I bought it? Yeah. Do you know something else that worried me? And it was a really silly thing, really. I went to the airport. I mentioned East Midlands Airport here. I went there and I parked it there for about 10 days. Now, I was really worried that, will it go flat? If I leave it for 10 days, will it go flat? Will something happen to it? Will it just trickle and drain? Do you know what? I came back to it after 10 days. It hadn't lost any battery power whatsoever. So yes, you can leave them lying around. I think you can leave them lying around for months and months and months and months and months without worrying about it, because that was certainly a concern that I had. The other thing I can do on my car, which is fab, I can track it. I can see where it is if I lose it in a big car park. It's wonderful. I can sit in the house also and I can tell it to warm up before I get out to it, or defrost. I hate the cold, and we're now in the winter, so before I come out to my car, I just stick it on the heater on for 10 minutes before I get in there. It's defrosted, it's warm, it's toasty, and if it's plugged into the mains, it doesn't take anything out of your battery, which is another bit of witchcraft, isn't it? So those are my thoughts on an electric car, an electric vehicle, being a brand new electric car owner. And I haven't been paid by anyone to do this video. I just wanted to do it for you guys, because when I thought about buying an electric car, I looked at loads and loads of videos, but I wanted to see a video of someone who's only owned an electric car, you know, for the first time, and has owned it for 6 to 12 months, what they think about it. So in general, I've had no problems really, and I thoroughly recommend you guys get one. You will hear horror stories, you will hear good stories. Just do a little bit of research and see where you go. Choose your car wisely, you know, choose the kilowatt hour, you know how much you're going to spend on your car, etc. But you'll save in the long run term. I don't care what anyone says, you'll save with your fuel costs. Now, it'd be really interesting to hear what comments people make here. Some people will agree with me, some people will call me a demon and say I'm talking out my backside, and that's fine. You know, you're always going to get opinions. You know what they say about opinions, and I'm not going to say that on here, but it would be really interesting to know what other people think of electric cars. I own one, my best mate owns one, and we both kind of agree we wouldn't go back to having a nice car. We just like the electric cars way too much. So I hope you found this interesting. This is a little bit off the beaten track to what I normally do videos on 3D printing, but I think it's really important to just do this video and just to let you guys know my experience of owning an EV for the first time, and I've owned an EV now for just under 7 months. Hope it's helped. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel, especially if you like 3D printing, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you again really soon on Greedy 3D.